Hey everyone, welcome to another macro photography video. Today I've got with me two really interesting new macro lenses from Laowa. One of them is on my camera right now, which is the 45mm f2.8, and the other is this one here, which is a 17.5mm f1.7. However, what is interesting about these lenses is the magnification ranges. The 45mm goes all the way from 1:1 magnification at the widest end up to 5:1 magnification at the long end, and the 17.5mm picks up where that leaves off and goes from 5:1 magnification all the way up to 10:1 magnification. And I'm very curious to try out these two lenses in the field, see how they handle, how they are to use for my kind of shooting, for handheld macro and for handheld focus stacking and so on, and also to do a bit of a comparison to the Laowa 25mm lens, which went from 2.5 to 5 times magnification and has been one of my main two macro lenses for quite some time. And yeah, before going into any more technical details, let's just get out and see what I can find in my local forest here. So to start off with, I've got the 45mm 1 to 5 times lens on my camera, and I found a good subject to kind of demonstrate the range of this lens. There are quite a few harvestmen underneath this log, and I'm going to take one image just to start with at 1:1 magnification, and then zoom in to 5 times and get another photo of the same individual. And having this kind of range in magnification is really interesting and just gives a lot of flexibility in the field. Whereas, for example, with the 25mm f2.5 to 5 times magnification lens that I'm used to using, I'm a lot more limited and have to switch lenses more frequently to a wider lens. So for this, I think I'm going to shoot this not quite at full magnification, but around 3.5 or 4:1 magnification, and let's see what I can get. So I really haven't gotten very far, and I've already found another really cool species to try the 1 to 5 times lens on, which is this beautiful fungus weevil here, a species I don't photograph very often. And I'm just going to try and get a few different images at different magnifications of this really beautiful species. Right, so after using this 1 to 5 times lens a bit, I have to say that it is a really great lens to use. It is a little bit heavy, but it feels very, very solid and well built, like all of Laowa's lenses. And there's one particular feature that, for two reasons, makes this a really excellent lens, especially in comparison to the 25mm, which is when I change magnification, I'm at 1 times magnification now, and if I go to 5 times like this, you can see the lens barrel doesn't extend at all. And along with this, the working distance stays exactly the same as well. And this means that, first of all, I can frame up a shot and then change the magnification slightly without having to move the camera at all, because the focus remains the same, it doesn't extend. And that's really nice for being a bit more flexible with magnification and with compositions. And what's also really nice is that I can set up my lighting once with my diffuser like this, for example, and if the lighting looks good at 1:1 magnification, it will look good at 4:1, 3.5:1, at 5:1 magnification as well. This is great because with the 25mm lens, the 2.5 to 5 times, because it extended a lot when changing magnification and the working distance didn't stay the same, I often would even switch diffusers when I went to higher magnification or lower magnification shooting, because otherwise the light just wouldn't work that well. Along with this, just from what I've seen on the back of the camera, the image quality of this lens looks really solid, but I will talk a bit more about that later once I've had the chance to review the photos properly. So yeah, those are my kind of initial thoughts on this lens, and now I'm going to give a shot to this more extreme of the two lenses, the 5 to 10 times macro. So there's a couple of things underneath this bit of wood here, one of which is this absolutely tiny yellow spider here, which I got a photo of with this lens at around 6.5 to 1 magnification, and there's a couple of things I noticed. First of all, the working distance on this lens is a bit smaller than on the 1 to 5 times macro, and that just means that it is on a flat surface like this, a bit difficult to get a low angle. For example, this is the final image of the spider, and I wish I could have gotten a little bit lower down, and of course this would have been easier with more working distance. And along with this is not really surprising, it's just a physical limitation, but the depth of field is ridiculously thin at this magnification. For example, this is a single shot from that spider sack, and there's basically nothing in focus in this single shot. So while it is definitely possible with a lot of patience to get a good focus stack at these kinds of magnifications, it is not an easy lens to use, and even a lot more difficult than the Laowa 25mm or this 1 to 5 times the other macro lens, which are already not easy lenses to use. But it is still pretty cool to be able to shoot with a regular macro lens on a camera at up to 10 times magnification. So I found a really cool little bark louse that is just a millimeter or two long and almost completely black. And I really wanted to get some photos of this. I swapped back to the 1 to 5 times macro lens because I found the 5 to 10 times just a bit too difficult to work with for such a skittish subject. And yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to get anything, but it's worth a try, starting with a slightly wider shot like this. So of course, as ridiculous as it is, I do have a lens here that can shoot up to 10 times magnification. So what am I gonna do? Not take a photo at 10 times magnification? Of course not. I've got a springtail here. I'm just gonna try and get a detail shot of just the scales at this maximum, completely ridiculous magnification. Of course, the challenge is first finding the subject, finding what I want to photograph. But oh, where is it? I know it's there, but this magnification working distance does not make it easy.
One eternity later.
Wow, I can see with my eyes that the springtail is right in front of me, but for whatever reason, I'm finding it incredibly difficult. There it is, finally. Okay, I've got my settings, I think about right. Yeah. And I don't know, this is completely absurd, but let's go for it. And that's a focus stack at 10 to 1 magnification and f1.7. That's completely ridiculous if that works. My goodness. Yeah, overall I've really enjoyed using both of these lenses, especially the 1.25 times is just really, really nice to use. And I've got about 2,500 images now from today to go through, so I'm going to head back home and go through all of those focus stacks, and I will see you shortly once I've had time to have a look at the image quality. Right, so I've had time to go through all of the images and edit my focus stacks, and overall I'm really happy with how both of these lenses performed as far as the image quality goes. Now, these results, this section will be based more just on my experience using the lenses and working with the images, but to me that is more important than any kind of technical test results anyway, is how the lenses actually perform in the real world. So starting with the 1.25 times lens, overall I think that this lens is really sharp basically all the way through. There's a very, very slight drop in sharpness at 5 times, but this is probably more due to the fact that I'm using a very, very demanding sensor. A 40 megapixel APS-C sensor means that diffraction and softness kicks in at much lower apertures than if you're using a full-frame sensor, for example. But I don't think that this is a big issue, and overall the sharpness is really consistent even out into the corners as well, which is really nice. Another positive aspect is something you see on a lot of other high magnification setups is basically color fringing, so areas that are very slightly out of focus will have kind of weird color artifacts, and this is something that I saw quite a bit on the Laowa 25mm on the 2.5 to 5 times lens, and luckily this is basically non-existent on the 1 to 5 times lens. Honestly, the only negative thing that I can find as far as the image quality goes on the 1 to 5 times lens is that the out of focus areas, especially these sort of transition areas, look a little bit busy somehow. Like for example on this Weevil, there just aren't the very smoothest transitions, and this probably isn't the biggest deal and won't be distracting on most images, but it is something that I noticed a few times, so I thought I would mention that. Moving on to the 5 to 10 times lens, this lens is also surprisingly sharp pretty much all the way through the range, and also really consistently sharp into the corners. Now, there is a slight drop-off up to 10 times magnification, but this is probably, again, more based on the fact that I'm using a very, very high pixel density sensor, so diffraction just kicks in very early, and I think that if you were using this lens on a full-frame camera, that probably would be less of an issue. There's slightly more fringing on this lens compared to the 1.25 times lens, but still a very, very manageable amount, and still much less than I noticed, for example, on the Laowa 25mm at 5 times magnification, so this is really nice as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind for both lenses is that the sharpness is, of course, like anything you're shooting at high magnification, very quickly affected by diffraction, so you just have to be very careful with what apertures you use and not to go to too high apertures. And this is often kind of a compromise with how narrow a depth of field is manageable. In my case, since I'm always shooting large focus stacks anyway, I always try and go for the best sharpness that I can get. And on the 1 to 5 times lens, this means using around f5.6, at the lowest magnifications around 1 to 1, anything above 2 to 1 I'm usually using f4, and anything above kind of 3.5 or 4 to 1 I open the aperture all the way up to f2.8 because that's where the best sharpness is. And on the 5 to 10 times, from 5 to 1 all the way up to around 7.5 to 1, I found f2 to be decent quality, but anything above there I open it all the way up to f1.7 just because that just gives the best sharpness. Now, this does of course result in extremely thin depth of field, and this means that focus stacking is basically necessary, but yeah, I hope that I was able to show that even though obviously these lenses are probably more suitable to use in the studio, especially the 5 to 10 times lens is certainly really difficult to use in the field, it is still possible to get handheld focus stacks with these lenses out in the field. And if you do want to learn a little bit more about my process for handheld and manual focus stacking, I did a full video on this last year, which I'll link in the description. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed using both of these lenses, and especially the 1 to 5 times lens here I think is a really, really good all-round lens if you're interested in moving to higher magnifications and want to push a little bit past what a regular 1 to 1 or a 2 to 1 macro lens can do. And especially in comparison to the 25mm here, I think that this lens is a great improvement on this one in almost every way. The range, of course, is better, the image quality, and the fact that it doesn't extend when you're changing magnification or changing focus is really great. And it is slightly bigger and heavier, but honestly not such a big deal, and they're both fairly heavy lenses, so it's just something that you'll have to take into account if you want to do this kind of high magnification shooting. Now, one thing to consider is that both of these new lenses are a bit more expensive than most of Laowa's macro lenses. They are both around $750 new, but yeah, they are very, very specialized and niche lenses, and if this is a niche specialization that you're interested in or that you work with, then I think that these lenses would both be very much worth the investment. So yeah, thank you very much for following along, and let me know in the comments if you have any further questions. And thanks again to Laowa for loaning me these two lenses for review, and otherwise I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.